19 years ago, Mike Tomlin was the DC of the Minnesota Vikings and was looking for an opportunity. It was 4 years after the Rooney Rule had been implemented, giving minority coaches a chance to be head coaches to get more interview opportunities in the NFL. Mike Tomlin went down to Miami. Miami was looking for a change of scenery, a new voice, a fresh face to bring into their building, and they had Mike Tomlin walk right in there as a 30-something-year-old defensive coordinator, and by all reports had a good interview, but for whatever reason the Miami Dolphins decided not to pursue hiring Mike Tomlin because they felt he was, quote, too hip-hop. Mike Tomlin then went on to Pittsburgh, and 19 years later he steps down with a Hall of Fame coaching resume, including a Super Bowl championship and having the distinction of never having a losing season as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's more so than just sneaking by with 9 and 7s and things of that nature. It's the fact that over that time period, his division has been one of the toughest throughout that whole tenure. Yes, the Browns have been up and down and mostly down, but the Ravens have been a thing. The Bengals, especially with Joe Burrow, have been a thing. And the Pittsburgh Steelers has still found a way to be, if not the class of that division, always competing for a chance to win that division and at least getting into a wild card spot. One of the most impressive parts of this whole Mike Tomlin thing for me is the fact that he did it by and large without a quarterback. Yes, he inherited Big Ben, but Big Ben was on the downturn of his career, or at least on the back half of his prime, when Mike Tomlin took over back in 2007. But if you look at the post-Big Ben era, it is full of mid, if not basura. We're talking Kenny Pickett, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Mason Rudolph, Mitchell Trubisky. Like, that is a six-pack of ass. Let's be real. And the fact that he was able to find a way to get a winning season out of all those QBs. And when you look at the screen here, 14 and 10 with Kenny Pickett. Who else is doing that? Aaron Rodgers 10 and 6. Russell Wilson at this point in his career, because again, that's when the Steelers got him at the tail end of his career. Who's getting a winning record with Russell Wilson as their quarterback? Justin Fields. Ask the Jets, who's getting a winning record with Justin Fields as your starting quarterback? Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky. Only Mitchell Trubisky has a losing record as a starting quarterback. So that six-pack of ass that Mike Tomlin had to endure with and still pump out winning records with, Mitchell Trubisky was so trash that he was the only one of this six-pack of ass that was able to have a losing record. Okay, so in this era of where you have to have a quarterback, the beginning and end always begins with, do you have a quarterback? Your relevancy as a contender begins and ends with, do you have a quarterback? Every year the Steelers were like, no, we don't have a quarterback. And yet and still at the end of the year, Mike Tomlin was walking away with a winning record. That speaks to a larger standpoint in regards into his acumen, his coachability, the way that the players buy into whatever he's selling. There's so many boxes that he checks. When you talk about a proof of concept, is this a person that can walk into your building and change things? And look, this move shook things up. There was so many coaching vacancies already. There were upwards of 8, and there still could be more, but there was upwards of 8 openings already, now 9 with Mike Tomlin. A lot of those teams that were thinking they had their candidates lined up for those 8 positions, now you got to throw Mike Tomlin in the mix. And there's reporting that allegedly he wants to, if he is to pursue coaching again, he wants to be in a warmer climate. Don't we all? I certainly want to be in a warmer climate all year round, but, you know, certain things you have to accommodate for. But with Mike Tomlin, he won't have some of those issues. He'll still have some of those same issues, but not all those same issues. When it comes to what should Mike Tomlin do next, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities, right? He could do the media thing if he wants. I'm sure all the networks are lining up, especially when you add in the fact that we got Amazon and Netflix in the mix. That would be a big get for them to be able to get a coach with the credibility of a Mike Tomlin on their set to give his analysis that brings instant credibility, big time credibility. He could do that. He could cash out and get the bag that way. Or there's reports, do you spin the block on South Beach if you're Mike Tomlin? Do you spin the block to investigate what Miami's talking about? 19 years ago, they played you out. 19 years ago, they didn't think you were good enough. They thought you were essentially too black for the position. Now, 19 years in the Super Bowl later, has Miami changed their ways? Now, again, to be fair to Miami, that was a different ownership group, a different regime that made that alleged statement in terms of he was too hip hop. But still, that has been a black cloud following that organization since then, especially when you add into the fact of what happened with Brian Flores and the whole tanking scandal and everything that went along with that. The Miami Dolphins have shown a propensity when it comes to black coaches, and it hasn't been the best of coaching records, right? Or at least the best of coaching relationships when it comes to black coaches by and large. Mike McDaniel notwithstanding, right? If you know, you know. So what should Mike Tomlin do if he does go to Miami? What does that look like? He doesn't have a quarterback. I mean, but he's won with Mason Rudolph. He's won with Kenny Pickett. Does it really matter if he has a quarterback? To me, I think he needs to not just jump right back in. Like, of the teams that have coaching vacancies, and I'll go back into the screen here, of the teams that have coaching vacancies, I think it's very telling when you look at these teams, right? We're talking Pittsburgh, they do not have a quarterback. Baltimore clearly has a quarterback. Cleveland, you don't know if they have a quarterback. Likely do not, as much as y'all love Shador. He is not the answer, right? Unless you surround him with top tier, top three at every position type talent. So Cleveland does not have a quarterback. They're probably going to draft one. Miami, Tua Tagovailoa is not it. They do not have a quarterback unless you're trying to roll the dice on some Quinn Ewers. If I am Mike Tomlin, I'm not going down to South Beach for that. The Giants, they think they have a quarterback in Jackson Dart. I'm not rolling with that if I am Mike Tomlin. Arizona, Kyler Murray. Can Mike Tomlin get Kyler Murray to put down the COD? Can he stop that man from playing Call of Duty 24/7? If ever there was a coach that could walk into that building and have instant credibility to potentially make Kyler Murray stop playing Call of Duty, it might be Mike Tomlin. But if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm not going to roll the dice on that. Atlanta, they thought they had a QB. Your QB got one good leg. I don't know if I'm trusting that. Now, the talent is there outside of QB. So now, if you are Tomlin, you're used to that, where I have talent everywhere else, but the QB position I might be lacking. It's the most closest thing. And there's a few pieces on defense, not enough, but there's a few pieces on defense. So Atlanta might be the spot where if I'm Tomlin, I'm like, Atlanta's certainly warmer than Pittsburgh. And culturally speaking, I mean, it goes without saying, no matter what Wiz Khalifa try to tell us about Pittsburgh. We go by Tennessee. Tennessee thinks they have a quarterback, and he certainly shows some signs of being the quarterback, but there's a lot of growing pains. You don't want to deal with that if you have the pedigree and the resume and the acumen of a Mike Tomlin. And then you have the Vegas Raiders, who are an absolute joke. Then you have to always worry about Tom Brady hoarding over you. I don't see it for Mike Tomlin. So if I am Mike Tomlin, it's Atlanta, or I'm chilling at the crib, or maybe Baltimore. But, the whole thing of staying within the division, Baltimore's not necessarily warmer than Pittsburgh. So if we're to believe the reports, I think it was Josina Anderson who had the report. If we're to believe the reports of what Mike Tomlin is looking for, I don't think Baltimore is that. I think it's Atlanta. If I'm Atlanta, I open up if I'm Arthur Blank, take that last name and make it a blank check and just slide that to Mike Tomlin. What do you want? They turned down Belichick. Right? They said no to Belichick and his resume and his pedigree and his rings. Do they do that to probably the most decorated black coach we've had since Dungy and Art Shell? I mean, that's a lot to walk away from. That's a lot to say no to. If I am the Falcons, you have to. After having the nonsense of Fontenot and Raheem Morris to kind of bring in Mike Tomlin to kind of reestablish that we are now trying to become a serious organization again. I think there's a lot there. And if you're Mike Tomlin, you're looking at that offense in terms of Drake London, Bajan, Cal Pitts, whether they bring him back or not remains to be seen. But you have the frameworks of some things there where you don't have to worry about this is a complete gut. It's not a complete rebuild. You're retooling on the fly with Atlanta. And I think with Tomlin, they might be able to bring in some free agents there that might be able to help boost that thing up. But we shall see. They got to worry about Kirk Cousins in that contract. They got to worry about Michael Penix and his recovery. And then his pending contract, there's a lot of things there. But if I'm Mike Tomlin, you have to look at Atlanta. I think it's Atlanta a bust. I don't know if there's any other jobs that might be able to pop up, that might be able to become available. But if you're the Falcons, you need to strike now. You need Tomlin to visit your facility now, or you go to him. Maybe Arthur Blank hops on the PJ and goes sees Mike T. Pull up on him. You want warmer? Welcome to Atlanta. Like, I think that to me is what I'm looking at. If I'm Mike Tomlin, it's either Atlanta or I hit the booth. Hit the booth or I hit the set on the studio, go get a check from Amazon or Netflix, and then spin the block next year.